Mike Wolfe's world came crashing down when his once beloved antique shop, the cornerstone of his company and the heart of American pickers, was faced with enormous opposition from customers. For years, Mike had been the face of a treasure-hunting movement, where finding rare and priceless antiques appeared like a fantastic adventure. But when the costs at his business increased, fans began to feel that the magic had departed. Social media exploded with complaints. The items that had felt like buried jewels now seemed more like pricey trinkets. Loyal clients who had backed Mike for years were now turning their backs, labeling it a cash grab. Fans of American Pickers started to ask, was the show still about passion for antiques, or had it become a financial venture? Some even went as far as accusing Mike of selling out, stating the show's original essence had been lost in the quest of wealth. The reaction didn't end there. The drop in ratings was evident. American Pickers was suffering its worst season yet. What had been an iconic show for a decade was suddenly coping with a soiled reputation, both on screen and off. As ratings sank, so did the once vibrant enthusiasm of the spectators. The fundamental basis of the show, finding gems in the dust, was no longer enough to maintain the audience's interest. It wasn't simply the pricing that provoked an outrage. Fans were questioning if the entire culture of antique picking had been perverted by the fame and income the show had given. Was it still about seeking hidden treasures, or was it now just about generating money? As the controversy escalated, Mike found himself at a crossroads, facing a tsunami of criticism that threatened to undermine everything he had worked for. With every fresh backlash, Mike's shop became a symbol of the shifting world of antiques in America. What was once a haven for enthusiasts was now perceived by many as a retail hotspot, overpriced and out of touch with the very spirit of selecting. And with American Pickers' future in risk, the question remained, could Mike Wolfe and his team recover from this, or was this the final chapter for the legendary show? Visuals of Mike Wolfe, Frank Fritz, and Danielle Colby during their prime years on American Pickers. Fans around were excited to witness them uncovering secret gems. The event was a beacon of nostalgia and treasure-hunting adventure. For nearly a decade, American Pickers was more than simply a show. It was a cultural phenomenon. Mike Wolfe, Frank Fritz, and Danielle Colby went throughout America, unearthing hidden riches in barns, cellars, and abandoned estates. It was a voyage through time and history, capturing the stories behind antiques that were much more than just expensive artifacts. The exhilaration of discovery was experienced by millions of people. The antique world was no longer an esoteric niche, but a mainstream obsession. The cast was accessible, engaging, and down-to-earth. People felt like they were part of the experience. But as the show's popularity grew, so did its business influence. Scenes of Mike Wolfe's shop increasingly becoming more commercialized. Customers start noting the spike in costs, and the shop begins to feel more like a high-end antique store rather than a treasure trove of buried history. As American Pickers proceeded to break records, a subtle shift began to develop. What was once a passionate quest of unusual findings transformed into a hugely profitable business operation. Mike's antique shop, which had thrived on its authenticity, was now ridiculed for its soaring pricing. Loyal fans who had earlier felt that they were part of the treasure search suddenly felt excluded by the increased commercialization of the show and the shop. The antiques that were originally unearthed via sheer luck and knowledge of history were now considered as high-end commodities, priced beyond what many people could buy. The show's emphasis on rare and valuable treasures became synonymous with selling out. It wasn't about researching history anymore, it was about generating money from it. Fan reactions on social media, including complaints about the increased costs at Mike's shop. Fans upload screenshots of high charges and criticize the show for its marketed change. As Mike's shop increased in popularity, so did the reaction. Fans flocked to social media, sharing their frustration. They felt betrayed. What had once been a show about unearthing undiscovered jewels had become a spectacle of inflated prices. On Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, the hashtag MikeWolfeSellout began trending. Fans couldn't believe that products they had formerly seen on the show for a fraction of the price were now being sold for 5 times the amount. But it wasn't just about the prices. It was the impression that the enchantment was gone. The charm of the show, the thrill of the pick, the excitement of discovering something extraordinary was eclipsed by the quest of profit. Footage showing American Pickers' audience ratings rapidly falling. News sources and critics began to note the drop in popularity. As the critiques continued to grow, so did the show's drop in ratings. The fundamental essence of American Pickers seemed to disintegrate. What was once a must-watch program for millions became a shell of its former self. Fans stopped tuning in, no longer attracted by the treasure hunts that had made the show so popular. Viewership statistics began to decline, and soon, American Pickers was suffering its worst season ratings yet. The backlash against Mike's business, along with the growing sense of despair among followers, seemed to indicate the end of an era. Critics began doubting the future of the show and whether American Pickers could recover from the harm to its reputation. Clips of Mike Wolfe addressing the public, responding to the criticism. He apologizes for the escalating prices and swears to return the performance to its roots. In the midst of the reaction, Mike Wolfe did everything he could to repair his reputation. He resorted to social media and in interviews to address the rising criticism. In a sincere statement, Mike apologized for the growing costs at his shop, promising supporters that he would make steps to return American Pickers to its original ethos. "I never meant for the show to become about money. It was always about history, about preserving the past and unearthing stories hiding in plain sight. I hear you, and I want to bring back that magic. But was it too little, too late?" Footage shows former supporters expressing their disappointment and indicating that they feel misled. Mike's shop remains a hotbed of contention. Despite Mike's attempts to remedy the issue, the harm was already done. Fans who had earlier been faithful to American Pickers felt betrayed. They couldn't overlook the shift that had taken place in the show's mentality. The soaring costs at Mike's shop had taken away the very spirit of discovery that had once made American Pickers so special. Even those who still tuned in to see the show couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. The enthusiasm and excitement that had once powered the series had been supplanted by a corporate strategy that focused on making money instead of commemorating history. Mike Wolfe standing alone, thinking on the show's path. The camera pulls back, leaving viewers wondering what comes next for American Pickers. As American Pickers' future hangs in the balance, one question remains: can Mike Wolfe and his team recover from the tempest that has obscured their legacy? The show that once felt like a true investigation of America's past now has the challenge of winning back the faith of its audience. For Mike Wolfe, the road ahead is uncertain. The path to redemption will require more than just a change in pricing or a shift in focus. It will involve an entire rethinking of what American Pickers is truly about. The future of the show may rely on whether Mike can return to the roots that made American Pickers a cherished series, or if it will continue along the route of commercial success, leaving its initial following behind.